This is Carl. Carl doesn't speak English. In fact, you don't share any linguistic commonalities at all. Carl and you are as different culturally as possible. How would you talk to him? Where would you even start? Well, language builds off of itself, so maybe starting with something simple would work, like yes or no. So you nod your head or stick up your thumb or make the OK symbol and say yes. But here's your first roadblock. Everything you just did are gestures that can mean something very different to Carl, possibly even having no meaning whatsoever. For instance, Carl just did the Squidward dance and said, "Grumps!" What are you supposed to do with that? How could you indicate something as easy as yes or no? If there's no universal language or gestures or sounds, then the foundational decisions a human being can make, the simplest of statements, are seemingly incommunicable. Alright then, let's move on to something like an object, just for the sake of it. You point at one of those red fruits and say, apple, then take a bite. Well, congratulations, you just told your first lie to Carl. For all Carl knows, that word now means food. Carl responds with a succinct "Urgh!" accompanied by a tasteful bout of flailing about on the floor akin to a fish out of water. Carl's sense of humor never fails. Oh, and Carl's a few hundred light years away, and he has 17 limbs and 2 dicks. He's blind, maybe, and possibly deaf, or lives under a sea of mercury, or experiences sound and light waves completely beyond you and me, or dances on a different plane of existence and molds the universe like a glorified Play-Doh set, and nobody can stop Carl, nobody can fathom Carl, nobody can know the wrath of Carl. Maybe he's God, the secret ruler of it all, dwelling on some barren rock in the middle of nowhere just for the fun of it. And maybe he's the reason none of it makes sense, or maybe he's the reason you cry when you're sad, and cry when you're happy, and cry when you just feel like crying for no reason at all, and maybe he's the reason you're born and die and live and love and die, and maybe he's doing the Squidward dance again. So, how would you talk to him? Well, that's what we're trying to figure out right now. In 1974, we sent this little blurb of binary code out into the cosmos, to globular cluster M13 to be exact, as a more of a ceremonial act than anything, because it would take 25,000 years to get there. It isn't the first time we've tried to send a message to aliens in some fashion, the golden disc on the Voyager is just one example, nor would it be the last, but it's the most interesting to me because it's kind of the most genuine attempt I can imagine. Binary, turning an electrical signal on and off, is the most basic foundation of computing. It probably is our best bet at sending a message to a civilization advanced enough to receive it. Considering it's the fundamental system to our version of technology, we have an okay chance of it being theirs too. And it's stupid. I mean, it really is, because can you, a human, look at this and understand what the hell you're looking at? I can get that that's our solar system, that's Earth, and that's a human, and that's probably the probe that transmitted it all, but I understand this solely because I know what human things look like. If we were the aliens in this instance, and somehow picked up on a random blast of radio waves, I doubt we would even think to take it as binary, much less understand what the fuck our computer just spat out. But oh boy, what if they do understand it? Then we've got neighbors 25,000 light years away who have just been delivered not only an interstellar slap to the face, probably the greatest culture shock of generations, but also the address of the bipodal and bipolar slappers all tied up in a nice little bow. If somehow, somewhere, a bunch of extraterrestrials can make anything out of this, my foremost concern is that they would think, tasty! Yeah, great idea, humanity. Let's be as loud as physically fucking possible in a universe that is as massive as we are insignificant. I bet you go into a coral reef that should be filled with life, see no fish around, and immediately start flailing around like a wounded animal. Cool, do that. Nothing bad will happen, I'm sure. Do you want to fight an interstellar war in 25,000 years? No! I don't want to battle in the cryo wars of Praxis 12. You can't make me! What if we're screaming into the void to prove a point, and instead we get a pointed lesson in galactic manners? Inside voice, humanity, inside voice. No nukes. What if our little cluster neighbors over there eat intestines for fun? What if they have 7 eyes and can induce the most horrifying hallucinations before they ingest you slowly and painfully and with only the most vile hatred in their heart? What if they are clever, far more than humanity, and conniving, wretchedly creative little crustaceans? What if we poke a sleeping bear and get devoured by some terrible god in the process, enslaved or genocided, the once powerful machinations of man reduced to rubble? What if we're alone? But I'm possibly being unreasonable. We don't really know what other life is like or what it would do. We humans tend to pull from what we already know to try and define the unknowable. And what do we know? Well, in our history, when one technologically advanced civilization meets another that is less so, what tends to follow? Enslavement. genocide. The once sprawling and vibrant civilizations of a region burned to ash and coal, like some twisted sci-fi turned horrible reality. Essentially, we aren't scared of aliens, we are inherently scared of ourselves. We are the monsters under the bed. We are the unnervingly pervasive blight spreading through the cosmos. We are nightmare incarnate. Seemingly harmless with just a few limbs and some big brains, we are cleverly deplorable in our manner of torment. We use the creativity given to us by Mother Nature or God or whatever depraved force to manipulate, torture, berate, and corrupt. Efficiency at all costs, riches at all costs, power at all costs, blood for the blood god and skull for the skull throne. And still, with the ferocity of animals and the cruelty of gods, we shall pave over the bones of the old and the scars of the past to remake the world in our fashion. Then we burn those paper mountains to make it again anew. If I could send a message to aliens somehow translated across the stars, I would say run. Humans have destroyed this planet, abused its resources, slaughtered its children. Humans have killed each other, enacted the most horrendous plans and heinous schemes, taking their own lives and raising their own future. The things we do to ourselves because of little differences, disagreements, or petty self-absorption are unspeakable. The earth trembles beneath us, we've conquered her land. The sky quakes from his dominion overhead. From Gaia we've been born, and Gaia we now command, but truly the stars are for what we were bred. Us deplorable wretches, a saga of bloodbaths endlessly restless, depraved and despicable, uncouth, reaching, standing upon the stacked bones and bodies of our ancestors. How terrifying would man be united against a common enemy, a common difference, a common goal. I shudder to think what may come of the poor extraterrestrial bastard who walks to humanity with open arms and receives the ignorant and fearful vitriol of our species. The indomitable human spirit turns spear. TLDR, stay away, please. That isn't exactly the whole story, though. It doesn't do my species or me justice to focus entirely on the negatives, the horrors, the terrors, and not focus a little bit on the good. Because there is good, even if it seems limited at times. Just as humans are the only species on this little planet capable of otherwise unimaginable horrors, we are also the only species able to imagine at all. Painting, writing, singing, creative expressions of oneself or identity in such an intrinsic form as art, empathy, compassion, kindness, the ability to be sympathetic and share hurt and bear through the pain and uncertainty together, progress, innovation, philosophy, the ability to ponder one's existence, to look up at the stars and not just wonder what's out there in the dark, but to send a message asking the dark itself. Good and bad, terror and comfort, humanity is simultaneously the most cruel species to exist, but also the most creative and compassionate. Recently, an event called Thankmas was held, hosted by a YouTuber named Jacksepticeye, and the entire event's purpose was to raise money for mental health, and by God did they do it. $3 million, thanks to the generous donations of people just like you and me, going towards charities like Crisis Text Line and Samaritans, organizations that exist solely to help people. Because humans are maybe the only species to spiral into the depths of despair unfathomable, but we are also the only species willing to understand and help. It was incredible to see the work, the effort, the insane amount of money raised, and the aid many people in positions of influence provided. The feeling of watching that number go up at such a speed to be matched to 3 million was unbelievable. The community of humanity reaching out to support something they believed in, something worth supporting, a problem that is as prevalent as it is preventable. This is what humanity can be. We are animals, yes, but thinking animals. Animals capable of cruelties only our creative minds could imagine, but animals capable of imagination in the first place. It's no wonder we often think ourselves as in a god's image, because there's nothing quite like us out there, really. We're a juxtaposition of crude, animalistic impulse and godlike, unfathomable minds. Humanity has the conscious capability to better itself as individuals and as a species. It's one of the characteristics that sets us apart. We can be better, we have the unique choice to be better, and it doesn't take a lot to try. So I think if I were to somehow teach an alien English, or any of our other vibrant and diverse languages, I would start by explaining the word for human, because that's all we are.